Great, thank you, Peter. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Is there any declarations of conflict? Seeing none, can I get approval of the agenda, please?
Certainly.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any, or adoption of the minutes from March 22nd, 2022?
Yes, sir.
Moved,
Yep.
seconded, thank you. Is there any business arising from the minutes?
These are the open minutes?
Yeah.
Yes. I might have something I was trying to, I don't know if it's going to be closed or it's about the property in University Avenue. Is there any update in that? Would that be under closed or?
We can discuss when it close.
Okay.
Okay,
I do not have an update. I can, if you want.
we can talk about that in close though.
Yeah, we can do that closed.
Oh.
Don't mind?
Okay, so back to business arising from the minutes. Is there any? Okay, seeing none. All right, we'll move right into reports. So we'll start with fire operational report. Deputy Chief Mamie.
Thanks, Chair. Your Worship. Operational report, everybody should have between the dates of March 19th and April 18th, 2022. We'll just run down it. Total fire inspections, 22, 7 general inspections, 4 follow-ups, 2 complaint inspections, and 2 inspections with plans orders issued. 7 files were closed, 8 plan reviews or permit consultations carried out. We had 3 engine 1 visits. We restarted our engine 1 restaurant and hotel visits to try to get that in before tourism season every year, just to get a fire safety visit. So we've done that again this past week. Fire investigations 2. Emergency responses 49 during that month period. 34 for station 1, 10 for station 2, and 5 inspector calls. Total time all calls is 30 hours 17 minutes. District 1 had 21 hours and 10 minutes. District 2 was 5 hours and 20, and the inspectors were 47. Training, weekly departmental training returned to in-person this month, which is great. Everybody's happy to be back and actually physically doing something rather than virtually. So we jumped into JPRs, our job performance reviews. Those are the basics, basically, of firefighting, down to PPE and SCBA use and all the rest of it. And that's what we're scheduling here for the rest of the month, and we've seen some trucks around town, as we mentioned, over the about. We did have a virtual mental health session on Monday the 4th, presented by Dr. Joey Jeanette from PSPNet, which is basically public safety personnel. So emergency services personnel, she's trying to get this program going from out west. Cindy McFadden's the point of contact for us, who's got our Resilient Minds training coordinator. She's going to be in touch with the police as well. This is just another free avenue for somebody immediately to answer an email or phone call if somebody has an issue mental health-wise. So, yeah, it's focused on emergency services personnel, and it's just once more another tool in the toolbox like the EAP. This is just another avenue for that type of thing. So I'll get Cindy to get people with you guys. It was really good presentation, and she wants to bring it to the island. This policy, perspective policy. Department activities, we had very successful muscular dystrophy group track, about 20 people out between the 2 locales. The Superstore and Charlottetown Mall on the 16th, and I think they're still counting money, I'm not sure.
Really?
They had a very good holiday, they don't have to total.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it was great.
Thank you. So any questions with regards to the operational report? We're good. Councillor Duran, is that you?
That's me, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, all good. We just finished the operational report for fire, so we're going to get Deputy Tim Mamie to get into the fire updates.
Perfect. I'm watching it online. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Just some updates on actually the last month's updates. We did meet with personnel from New Brunswick, from the Irving personnel from New Brunswick and Irving Propane, and we will be having that exercise on May 9th. There'll be media releases from Irving, and also I'll be in coordination here with our communications officer to get some out here as well. There'll be a training exercise at the Allen Street propane terminal.
Okay.
That will be in the evening on Monday night. The new fire station, the executive team continues to advance the file. We have a meeting coming up 2nd week of May. Fire prevention bylaw, no change there. And our recruitment campaign, we've had 10 of the 20 candidates complete their level 1 training, so we've got them in station now. They've been completing their last 2 JPRs the last 2 Monday nights. So 10 new personnel will be joining the department here shortly. We'll start responding within the next month. And we're still working with 5 of the other 10 personnel who weren't able to complete the training to see what we can do to help them through. So we could have total 15 graduate out of that class, which would be great.
Wow.
So we're still working on that as we go forward. And I think that concludes updates. I have a few for closed session.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Deputy Chief?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor
Thank you,
Ramsey.
Deputy Chief, you said you're hoping to get 15 out of the 17 candidates. If they're volunteer, so that's going to, I ask this question probably every month, because I usually all the numbers. So that's going to get your volunteer base, about 80?
Probably around 85, I think,
Great.
after the little period of attrition a few years.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Chief, the 3 new firefighters that we hired, when does the interviews or when does that process start, or has it started?
We're still in the process of reviewing the job description
Okay.
and job posting with HR.
Okay.
And we should be moving forward on that very shortly. We also have 3 firefighters on our conjunction.
Okay, so when do we think that we're going to have that out? Just
I couldn't give you a ballpark, but I'm looking forward to it as soon as possible.
okay. Fire station, you said there was a meeting.
We have a meeting the second week in May. I think by the end of May, they're looking for 90 to 99% drawings complete and tender in around the second or third week of June.
So hoping to break ground when? Like, what's the hope right now?
That I couldn't give you an estimate, I'm sure.
Okay.
I have to talk more with
Say
Albert
Lark.
there, with Public Works and with Robert as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So,
Your Worship.
again, the goal is to break ground this year.
That's, the goal was to break ground last year, but we're here, and that's okay. I mean,
And
things,
more to discuss on the topic.
things get stalled, and that's fine. That's,
There'll be an update in the budget as well.
oh, is there? Okay, okay, perfect.
Very well.
Yep. Any other questions? Councillor Duran, any questions for the Deputy Chief?
No, that's great, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Moving into police operational. Chief?
Thank you, Chair. Calls for service, police service for March was 1,402. That's up from 1085 last year, so we're starting to see the calls increase back to pre-COVID years, so it's something to think that things are getting back to normal, and calls are relative to the population and people moving around, so I guess in one way it's a good indicator, and in another way it's not so good, but we're happy to be seeing an increase in, decrease in amount of COVID in our certain food service, and because it did impact us for a little while. So. We also noticed that the protests around the COVID restrictions have declined significantly in the weekends in the legislature. Our community wellness team are focused on supporting an increased level of mental health calls that our officers are having to respond to. I think there was one day last week 64 calls for service in a day, and 30 of them had a mental health component to it. So difficult times for a lot of people, and we're very fortunate to have a mental wellness team to be able to respond and support our frontline groups. We're also seeing an increase in the types of incidents like theft, shoplifting, and theft from motor vehicles. And that is normal as the weather improves. We'll see more negativity and things happening in the wee hours of the morning. So we urge people to lock their vehicles and do not leave without the items in the vehicle. And we're doing that as through our social media and our website. Homelessness remains to be an issue in the city. Our officers are ready to respond to people with proper housing, searching the vestibules and ATM machines, and we continue to receive calls from residents and concerns from citizens in relation to that.
May I ask a question?
Sure. Councillor Ramsey?
Chief, what do you do with the people when you remove them from these areas? Like, do they go, you just say, we gotta move on, or do they go to a certain place, like, I don't know?
Well, so in relation to the beach or trespass, notice to refrain from attending the area again. But most times, they're not incarcerated.
No.
We often try, our officers work to try to improve their situation, put them in connection with services to find proper housing and improve their situation. And the mental health team will follow up on, and has followed up on those individuals. But it's a challenging issue, and just feel it putting the community and also aware of these sorts of issues.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, like, let's say you're at the TD and you're inside there, you're sleeping there, and then they come and get them. Like, do they just move on, like, to the next one, let's say Tim Hortons or someplace like that, or is there a place where the police can take them?
These are, people that will stop overnight in them and now move on to services where they have breakfast, their all breakfast programs, or shelters. Homelessness is a challenging issue. As you know, police officers are at the forefront of a lot of social issues, including homelessness. But we can't police our way out of these sorts of issues. We have to work with our partners and stakeholders and do the best for the people that are affected.
Chief, just on that topic, before you keep going, so when we have some of the homeless folks sleeping in the ATM lobbies, if you will, or where the ATM machines are, urinating, needles, whatever. I mean, there's bank clients, for instance, coming in to use the ATM machine that, again, don't feel safe. What can we do, I guess, as a police department, in cooperation with the banks, to limit or eliminate this thing happening?
It's unfortunate, but we have to limit the possibilities of that type of incident by retreating back to where ATM started, where we had to swipe the bank card and win.
The initial doors.
You had to have access. People with vestibules in apartment buildings need to get proper security systems to prevent people from coming in there after hours. And we continue to spread that message. We enjoy, a very safe community and a quality of life that few enjoy anywhere, and take a lot of things for granted, but safety is not one we should take for granted. And so we should limit every opportunity to get in a compromising position or a potential confrontational situation.
So any calls that I take from a manager or whatever banks, send them to you to work with you guys, as opposed to a global solution.
We have some sound advice and also some good practices that we can follow, but also streamline the response and lessen the impact.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
Mr. Chair, my bank in Montreal over here, it just simply locks up at 11 o'clock at night, 3 over to 6.
The outside door one?
Bank of Montreal on Grafton.
Yeah, but the outside door, so
Yeah.
they
You can't even get in.
Oh,
Even with a swipe card? You can with a swipe card.
No, I don't think so.
I think
I'm not sure.
Yeah, you'd have to have access
But
to
no,
the.
so if I really need before 6 o'clock,
Yeah.
I go to the Charlottetown Mall. You can get in there because it's not transient. It's not pedestrian up there. It's pedestrian down here.
I
And
didn't
the
know
door
that.
is open up there at the Bank of Montreal. Now I just blew their covers.
They'll be calling you from Montreal.
Yeah.
Chair, could I just,
Sure.
Chief, we know it's not just, it is a homeless issue, but we have a mental health crisis. And we have a provincial government that is responsible for mental health services. So you can see it when you drive down Houston Street. I know our police officers are there on a day-to-day basis. EMS is there on a day-to-day basis. It's not a good situation. Like, this issue of addressing the mental health crisis, not just in Charlottetown, but it's just been, it has exploded because of COVID-19, and it's just, it's going to be a long time before we hear this. So I watched the police officers that go up to Houston Street. The professionalism is impeccable. The service that I hear from I think it's now the Hillsborough, the Venture Group have great praises for the city police, how they try to deal with the issue at hand, and there are a lot of different issues that are happening in that area. So kudos to you, but I think the province needs to look at this closer and provide more supports.
There's no question we're shared that we're in a mental health crisis and we need all our partners with us to do more improvement problems. What we're seeing in Charlottetown is a migration from other communities into services that exist here. And so a lot of the people that are coming are from other areas and just not our residents. They're coming from all over for these types of services that are centrally located. So it's a challenge because some of these individuals we do not have the privilege that they have with some of our other clientele. So, but we appreciate the comments from worship and everyone we've talked to, and our team is doing a great job on that front and treat people with dignity and passion and have a really sincere approach to the circumstances that we're proud of.
And I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that some council members should drop by just to get a first-hand understanding of what's taking place in some of these areas. And it's yes, homelessness is parallel to the mental health and substance abuse. There's so many factors in this issue that we need, as the chief said, we need the partners, all the partners at the table. And the management at the facility in Houston Street are doing a great job, but I know they can use help, and they're definitely getting it from the Charlottetown Police Services. Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. So, sorry, Chief, keep going on the operational.
Chair, I've invited Honorable Sean Casey to our CPS headquarters on May 6th, and we can accept that invite. We were very fortunate to receive some funding from the Federal Guns and Grants Initiative. I hope there's an opportunity to show the minister some of the things that we're doing with that funding, and also extend the invite to mayor and council, also whoever will to attend on the 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Yeah. I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Jennifer McCarron to give some updates on the whole working group she's working on.
So since early January, I've been on the Enhanced Emergency Sexual Assault Service Committee. That's where your third option for sexual assault comes in, where they can go to the hospital. They don't necessarily have to report right away, but the evidence is preserved for you. I'm also working on the Canadian framework for collaborative police response to sexual violence, and that came out of the drink spiking incident. So we have a review team that's setting up, and they're going to review our unfounded sexual assault files. So what they'll do is they'll go through, they'll make recommendations. If they see an area where we may be weak in, they can offer training. So we're hoping to get that up and running soon. I'm also on the Human Trafficking Committee, and we're working on an awareness campaign, because we do have prostitution in the city, and there's a one-day course coming up for our street crime unit who deal with the sources and people into drugs to identify minors that may be being trafficked in our province.
You got a lot on your plate. There are 3 pretty major, key, sensitive areas. So good for you. Good. Any questions? operational wise?
Good report.
Is that it for operational, chief?
Yeah, that's it.
Just, Councillor Drawn, anything on operational?
Oh, I'm good, Greg, thank you.
Okay, personnel?
On personnel, chair, police act training is continuing within our department, also participating in active shooter response training. Our tactical response containment team will also train this month in response to active threats. Our deputy chief position has been posted today, so looking forward to the updates. And have some great candidates. Summer staff will be very challenging this year to obtain. There's a policing shortage in the region in Canada. That's police academy, the number of cadets enrolling to go through the police academy and other police academies across the country is down. And of course, that has an impact on availability of qualified personnel that police departments can compete for. So, very challenging to find people to come here for part-time work in the summertime when it's full-time jobs.
Chief, is that the same problem happening all across Atlantic Canada or even across the country?
Across Canada.
Really? Wow. What's the solution?
There's a few ways that we can work our way out of this, and certainly through a strategic recruiting plan, but also partnerships with the province. Things like public safety cannot be left up to whether some of the sides, if they're have enough monies or appetite to go to the police academy or want to be police officers this year. Public safety is a certain staple that people need in the community, and as the municipality and as the province need to play a role in maybe sponsoring positions, identifying suitable candidates, sponsoring positions to attend the police academy with promise of employment is some of the things they're doing to overcome those challenges.
So is enrollment down like that much at the academies? And if so, is the reason like the cost of the course, or is it just the uncertainty of not having a full-time job when you get out? Because it sounds like there are jobs, by the sounds of it, or maybe not. I don't know.
So I think there's several factors in that chair that have affected recruiting. Some of them, a lot of the negativity surrounding police over the last several years, I think has an impact. I think COVID in its own way had an impact. And but the end result is where there's normally in most years 90 to 100 cadets going through the police academy, we're seeing the numbers in the 20s and low 30s. And of course, when we're just one agency competing for those bodies, it's very difficult. That's my personal report.
Thanks, Chief. Wow, those are staggering numbers. Any questions, Councillor Ramsey?
I'm good, thank you.
Councillor Duran, any questions on personnel?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, let's move into bylaws.
Chair, as you know, we attended a meeting yesterday hosted by DCI in relation to availability of taxis in the city and province. They have talked with the stakeholders to look at some of the recommendations from the group that was formed back in 2018, and where we are today in regards to that situation, because I think everyone recognizes it's going to be a busy tourist year, and the availability of taxis and that type of service needs to be a broader focus, and a lot of stakeholders need to we're happy to be part of that discussion and give our input, and we'll continue on.
I think we're meeting in 2 weeks again with them, I think, or next week.
That's right.
Yep.
With DCI.
Just a group. We got representatives from TIPI, the Port, Airport Authority, DCI, Chamber.
Your Worship, it's a continuation of a group that was started several years ago, and also tonight there's accessible taxi working group meeting. Your Worship and I will be continuing our work on accessible taxis,
Which has been a challenge.
which has been a challenge in its own, but it's an important service that we also certainly feel an obligation to play part in improving. And that's my bylaw report.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, go ahead.
So we just gave the second reading to taxi bylaw to increase the fees. And I received a Facebook message from Mike, who is a taxi driver, and it stated that the $1 increase will not cover fuel cost, operational cost. It's been difficult this year, and it's going to be more difficult. And they were wondering if they could meet with the police services to look at some of the options. So it's something we're open to.
Your Worship, we're all, understand the challenge, and we're always happy to meet to discuss ways to improve it. And, but, I'd like to note that the fare increases, and other changes to bylaw were done with recommendations from the industry. And when we did a scan of the reasons, we were in alignment with others at the time. So we're happy to continue discussions, and we know it's an evolving and very challenging situation in that industry, and we're happy to be discussing.
And good point, Chief, that, again, this was their recommendation from industry, not ours. We didn't put the numbers together. This was simply them coming to us. Yeah. Good? Councilor Duffy, good? Okay, let's move into community policing.
Thank you, Chair. Charlottetown Police were very active in the community again for the month of April. Our most recent community participation was in the polar plunge just over the weekend. On a pretty frigid, cold day, we had lots of people turn out for it. Constable Christian McKay is ultimately in charge of this occurrence. So let's read something she put out as chair of the Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics PEI. Just want to pass along a thank you to everyone who took time out of their day to attend the 9th annual Law Enforcement Torch Run Polar Plunge for Special Olympics PEI. The Charlottetown Police Service was able to make a donation of $500, coupled with my team total of $3,575. We have over $4,000 from representatives of our organization alone. Special thanks goes out to Constable Tara Watts for organizing a team of troops to attend, and Corporal Bobby Larder, who dressed up in our mascot, Copper. Made for some great pictures. At last total, we were over 23,000 raised for over 600 Special Olympic athletes that we have here on PEI. So some really good work going on there. And I also just like to pass on some of the officers and staff that participated on their own time. Acting Deputy Chief Jennifer McCarron jumped in the water, Tara Watts, Constable Mike Gray, Dispatcher Stephanie Challoner and her daughter came out, Constable Tyler Shea and his son came out, Dispatcher Joanna Weatherby, and Police Officer Liam Jay. So great turnout for that.
You can go out, Chief?
Deputy, where has the deputy seen Mr. Kelly, what?
Too old, thought I had a heart attack.
Swam in the Halifax Harbor.
Where was it at?
It was North Shore.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was there much ice?
Valley Beach. No, but there was a big surf.
Okay.
We'll make sure we extend the invite.
Yeah, that's right. It's great there. Nothing else to hurt.
I'll get.
I sure like to walk.
Have you seen me lately? I'll get clubbed. I think it was a seal.
You can check out some pictures on our Twitter feed. There's some good shots on that. Acting Deputy Chief Jeffrey McCarron sent out a letter of appreciation to 2 officers from Charlottetown Police. The occurrence was back on the 2nd of April, and her letter reads, last night officers Constable Cole Glenn and Constable Ryan Horman responded to what they thought was an ordinary barking dog complaint. It turned out to be a house full of smoke, and the residents passed out. Cole and Ryan were able to get the residents out to safety. CPS management wish to express our deep gratitude to the dedicated work they do on a constant basis. So it could have been a very tragic situation if our guys didn't get there in a quick time.
Wow.
Also, I happen to be working on a group that's dealing with the security operational plan for the 2023 Canada Games. So Charlottetown will take a role in the security aspect of that as well. Constable River Coffin was a big driving force in a Superstore spring food drive. Charlottetown Police Service is proud to support the Atlantic Superstore spring food drive on April 9th. Charlottetown Police Community Action Team assisted with the collection of food and monetary donations to the Atlantic Superstore. Food donations were collected and distributed to local food banks in support of local residents who are in need of support. And that can be found on our website. In our last meeting, I discussed that from our mental health unit, Constable Zach Gould was, because of his specialized training in mental health, was being asked to go over and help teach officers in St. John. If you just got a minute there, I want to read a letter of appreciation from Dr. Jonathan Duddick from the province. He's part of the provincial mobile mental health unit. I wish to sincerely thank you all very much for kindly releasing Constable Zachary Gould to assist me with the week-long crisis intervention team training last month in St. John. We successfully trained approximately 10 officers from both St. John Police and Brossard Regional Police Force. I wanted you all to know that Zach did an amazing job with the training, and it was my privilege to work with him. He was professional, engaging, passionate, and shared many valuable insights from his experience with the Community Wellness Unit. During discussions, the audience also benefited greatly from Zach sharing some of his life experiences as an Indigenous person and a member of the Adequate First Nations. Because of Zach's candor and maturity, we all became more culturally sensitive and aware. In my humble opinion, Zach epitomizes the finest qualities and values of the Charlottetown Police Service, and we may all learn much from his excellent example. He is indeed an asset to the Community Wellness Unit, to the Charlottetown Police Service, and to the Allen community. I would also like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the contribution of Constable Cassie McGee from our police force, who attended the training as a guest. She too enriched the discussion by sharing from her own experiences as a law enforcement officer. I was most appreciative of Cassie's participation, as with Zach. Was very much impressed by her maturity, professionalism, and compassion and understanding about mental illness. Once again, thank you for the collaboration and two exceptional individuals with bright futures who truly are graduation, best wishes, and a wonderful weekend. So it's very nice to get such a long, glowing appreciation from someone high up in the Furthermore, our community action team, Constable Johnson, had targeted enforcement within his assigned wards. He laid 20 summary offense tickets. Constable Coffin in his targeted assigned areas laid 56 summary offense tickets and 32 warnings. Constable Coffin has also already received the 2022 IOED.
The system has detected that a few lines are still connected to the conference and will attempt to disconnect them. If you wish to remain in the conference, please press *1. 15.
So Constable Coffin is about to receive the IOD Police Community Relations Award given to a selected police officer from across PIO who exemplifies community involvement. And he will receive that award on April 28th at the Inn on the Hill. And I can honestly say there's no one more deserving than Constable Coffin for what he's done in the community. Constable Kaiser from our Traffic Support Service assisted in the Charlottetown Bunny Hop race. And he is also helping out with the Century 21 road race that goes April 30th.
I think he's helping out next weekend too with I think we're hosting one, it's Remax
Okay.
Spring Fling, whatever. He's arriving Saturday morning, yeah.
Okay, very good. Constable Chantel Costello is still working in Colonel Gray as an SRO. She was able to present to Virtual Intermediate a course on internet safety to all grade 7 classes. And it focuses on internet safety, cyberbullying, and sharing inappropriate images, which continues to be an issue with students from that age category. And she was also able to bring in the ASD into the law class and demonstrate how it worked. And she had Constable Ron Kennedy, who's working on the provincial side of DRE, to help out with that lecture. Our integrated liaison officer, Constable Greg Meisner, he's been busy on Tuesdays and Thursdays working with the PGAP Bridge program, which we're all familiar with now. He has helped out 13 individual clients who were considered acute elevated risk. So he's doing some really good work there. And finally, our community response unit. They were, as the chief mentioned earlier, they've been quite busy. They're involved with, just in the month of April alone, they're involved in 94 mental health crisis calls, directly either through follow-up or through referral agencies. We've also, on top of that, conducted 25 well-being checks. And on top of that, they're doing daily foot patrols in the downtown for homeless and the outreach center. And that concludes my report to the community.
Wow, impressive.
Thanks, John. So Jerry, you can hear from our reports that CPS is doing exceptional things, including policing and playing a leading role in the challenges associated with mental health and really building a center of capacity in that area where others are taking notice of and looking at what we do. And so we're proud of that. We will continue to challenge our partners and all levels of government to support us to improving on mental health crisis and homeless issues, which truly affects everyone. So, that concludes our report.
You have our support as well, Chief.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could I just ask, Deputy Chief, was it 95, you said 95 counts on mental health?
Yes, for April,
Just April?
and that's just for that unit alone. There's probably more mental health calls than that for the service as a whole. So they were just ones that they.
So collectively, do we look at our sister communities to the west and the east of Cornwall and Stratford? What kind of response or what kind of needs they're filling over there? Is that something we do, or are we just honing in on what we have here? I know it's yes.
So we have an analyst that works in our agency that monitors the activities in all communities across the province and neighboring communities to give us perspective. Charlottetown is a public services leadership and people are migrating into the city looking for those services that are not as easily accessible in other parts of the province.
So 95 calls from one unit, so that's definitely a large, a loud cry out that we need help. And it's not just for what we do as a service provider, police services, but also the community that has to work with this vulnerable and marginalized clientele. And Adventure Group, as I said earlier, is doing has stepped up, and other groups have too. So I think, we have to, again, engage our partners at the other levels of government to get more monies or supports in place, because We're not out of this COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, Your Worship, the two mental wellness health officers and the integrated offender officers are all funded positions in the province and Fed, so we're very fortunate to have that. But as you can see, it remains a challenge. And it would be very critical if, to maintain that. And we're certainly fortunate to have it. I couldn't imagine a situation if we didn't have the resources.
And, Mr. Chair, I understand what you're saying, Chief. We're doing our part, but there are stages in this issue, this crisis, and that's why the provincial government, along with the federal partners, is looking at constructing this acute care mental health campus out off Acadia Drive. That's all part of the process of dealing with these issues. So that's when I asked prior to more help, is to put those other stages in place so we take care of it on a street level, but then we have to move the individuals or the clients through the system to get the help they need.
It'd be ideal, prevention would be ideal, so that it could be fixed before they even got to our service.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Perfect world.
Yeah. But just on a local issue, I received a call from Bob McGee, who lives out in Sherwood, and he said, I want to make sure you thank police services for the patrolling of his neighborhood over the last couple of months. So he took notice there, Mr. Chair, and hopefully Councillor Drawn heard that too, because he's in Ward 6. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thanks again for the report, Deputy Chief. Can we make sure those letters of appreciation get into the package, the monthly package, at the end of the month for council, for all council can review those? And same thing, Deputy Chief Tim Amy, if there's these type of letters come in of appreciation for firefighters, if they can make its way to the package,
Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
just a photocopy or something. It would be great. I just think that all council should see it.
Yeah.
And we highlight those at council. And before we move into a closed session, I want to recognize Jill Stewart's awesome minutes.
Great job.
Great improvement.
Same thing in the office of the mayor. We couldn't.
Listen,
It was so organized, people would say,
I sent
"You're always
her-
on time, Phil."
I sent her a message to say that I thought the minutes were fantastic and she appreciated it, but I thought I'd recognize her in open session. I think the minutes are fantastic.
Well, Chair, your recognition is very well timed, because I'd also like to give some recognition to Jill, the great job she's doing, and tomorrow is Professional Assistance Day.
Yes.
And we're lucky to have professional people like Jill in our workplace, and great job.
How red can we make her face go? Should be a new fundraiser. All right. Thank you, Jill. All right, we're going to move into a closed session as per section 119(1)(b), unclosed confidential information, D, human resource matter, and E, a matter still under consideration of the MGA of PEI. Motion to move into closed session. Anyone? Moved? Anybody want to second it? Second it? Perfect. All right.